Lisa, it's great to be with you. It's always great to be with you. I'm still longing the day when we can have dinner together to have this conversation. But short of that, we will settle in for our Horizons conversation on Zoom.
I will take what I can get, Tracy. I'll take
I
what I
don't know
can
about
get.
that. It's much better. We're having a meal right now.
Indeed.
I thought we might start by providing a little context, and in particular, how how Social Finance and GA, General Assembly, got to come together to work on our first ever career impact bond, which was focused on helping 1,000 people across the country prepare for sustainable careers. Should we start with that, Lisa?
That sounds perfect.
Great. So I thought I might just say a quick word about the current system and how it just isn't working well for everyone. And I think you and I can both agree that over the last half century, we've just seen massive disinvestment in the American workforce, right? Whether it's thinking about the lack of economic mobility, all the great Ross Chetty data, around 50 years ago, 90% of kids went on to out-earn their parents, and right now that statistic is just short of 50%. And I think that there's been a massive disinvestment also by the government, by employers, yet all of this is happening at a backdrop of 9.3 million unfilled jobs in the economy nationwide. So why is that? And why can't we help people access the kind of training like General Assemblies, like other organizations, to gain the skills to land these jobs that businesses are just calling for? And that was very much kind of the context in which the Career Impact Bond idea was born. And we're just so incredibly excited about our partnership with you, Lisa, at General Assembly, and we're just getting going.
For sure, for sure. And maybe it would be helpful just to share for viewers a little bit about sort of General Assembly, and also to maybe compare and contrast the work that we've been doing together with the Career Impact Bond from what the sort of traditional path is, and what makes everything that we're doing both on the training side and on the financing side so different. So first, thank you just for inviting me into this conversation, and just also want to share a shout out to Maria and the entire Jobs for the Future team for including us in this series of conversations about the workforce for the future. And while we're sharing gratitude, another quick thank you to the Gates Foundation for their incredibly generous sponsorship of this initiative. So, so to me, the work that GA, the General Assembly, and Social Finance are leading together is really motivated around this idea of creating quality outcomes for adults that are looking to break into high growth, high wage tech and digital fields. But here is the catch. Regardless of who they are or their prior experience. What we do is we give on-ramps to these really compelling and high wage careers to people who are candidly sort of falling out of other traditional pipelines, either because they've been traditionally excluded or have recently been excluded due to other factors. So what is the traditional pathway? Well, when you think about sort of elite universities and other traditional degree or training programs, think about that, those programs tend to think about sort of selection of candidates and qualifications in a deeply sort of traditional sense, meaning their model is often to be as selective as possible, right? Where they're trying to identify candidates with great grades, coming from the best high schools with really impressive extracurriculars, and that model, in addition to the high expense of a traditional degree program ends up overlooking a lot of candidates who actually would be, as we have seen in our experience, who would be successful technologists. And so this whole model, the whole, kind of GA model was born out of this idea that everyone should have access, who has the will to do it, should have access to this opportunity. And we take a lot of pride in our ability to kind of evaluate the right non-traditional talent. Additionally, a lot of students simply can't pay for the high cost of post-secondary or some training programs. And the financing options that have traditionally been available are just, are incredibly limited. And they're particularly out of reach for students who have poor credit histories or have other challenges like getting private loans. Those sorts of students, exactly the people who we should focus on and who we should want to be able to have access to higher income and more robust pandemic-proof careers, end up getting excluded. And so we found that roughly half of the applicants who've successfully completed our screening process and were admitted to our our immersive programs, our boot camp programs, were unable to couldn't come because they were unable to secure the financing. And so that's really where this partnership with social finance and your vision and ambition really came into play. This program is really designed to serve over 1,000 individuals across all of our US campuses, exactly the people that we're describing, people who have the will, who have the potential, but do not have access to financing, and getting them training in these high growth areas like software engineering and UX design and in data. So we're really, really proud of it. We're proud of the impact and outcomes that we've had. And would love to send it back to you to maybe share a little bit about what your experience of this program has been and what elements of it you sort of point to say that's what we want to continue to build on.
No, thanks for all of that, Lisa. I think it's really exciting to share again kind of the theory of change, if you will, that General Assembly was born now almost a decade ago. But I think what you just mentioned, Lisa, just highlights how the status quo just isn't working anymore, not for our country as a whole, not for businesses, and most importantly, not for individuals and not for workers. And you also talked about elite university, and it also highlights that the system is creating a lot of risk for people involved, not least huge financial risks taken in the form of student loans by lots of individuals, 44 million Americans holding 1.6 trillion in collective debt, hoping that their education and training might pay off, but with no promise that their education and training might pay off, right? So that is very much the impetus behind the Career Impact Bond model that we're so excited about launching with General Assembly. In fact, I think we've enrolled over 600 students in the program now. And before we kind of go deeper into the results of the program, I thought we might spend a minute on how the Career Impact Bond works. So essentially, the model brings together student-friendly payment terms in an income share agreement context. But unlike income sharing agreements, which is simply another consumer finance option, right? You take on a loan or you take on an ISA. The Career Impact Bond works very differently in the sense that it is not just a consumer finance option, but rather built as a tool for impact. So in addition to funding tuition, it also funds important tailored wraparound supports like living expense coverage, emergency aid funding to cover unforeseen expenses that just happens with life, right? Like rent and transportation and childcare. So students enroll in the program at GA, whether it's the software engineering class or the UX design class that you mentioned, Lisa, with no upfront costs. But they sign a piece of paper that says that they would repay their cost of training if they graduate and earn salaries above a specific income thresholds. So participants, in addition to getting the classroom training, would have important access to wraparound services, but also important financial safeguards like downside protection. So if you don't hit the minimum income threshold, you don't have to pay anything at all. And there are also fixed payment caps and very transparent terms to make sure that the student is at the center of this financial arrangement. All of this is underpinned by something what we call a student bill of rights, to just make sure that all the parties to the financing arrangement are all focused on the student outcomes. And we've seen this approach being embraced by General Assembly and by our other provider partners. We have begun to see some exciting outcomes and in some exciting stories. And a recent graduate of GA is someone that we have just gotten to know, our team. His name is Anthony Martinez. I think he's 25 years old. He's from California, and he was in retail making around $30,000 a year, but he's always been interested in IT and interested in a different career path. So he landed at GA through the Career Impact Bond and enrolled in the program at no upfront cost to Anthony. He started classes in October of 2020 in your software engineering class. And he had hardly any kind of software engineering experience before. And like a lot of the Career Impact Bond students, the wraparound supports were critical to Anthony's journey. And he used the program's emergency aid fund to cover some outstanding bills. And while he had to take time off from work as he immersed in the program. He graduated in February of this year of 2021, and through the employer partnerships at GA, and specifically GA's partnership with Workday, I think an initiative called Opportunity On-Ramps. Through that program, which is focused on helping talent from underrepresented communities find roles in technology in IT, Anthony found a job at Workday. Which is extraordinary. He started off as a quality assurance engineer at Workday just last month, making $35 an hour, and that's just the starting wage. Here for Anthony, the risk of upskilling is obviously shared across all our partners, from our investors to General Assembly, because everyone is only repaid if students are successful. If students land a job and keep the job over the 4-year period of the Career Impact Bond obligation. So everyone's incentivized to put student success at the center. Students like Anthony can pursue training without taking on undue financial risk. And this is just one story that we're just so excited about, and to have employer partnerships like Opportunity On-Ramps to help facilitate the job placement journey has also been extraordinary. Lisa, over the last year or two, adapting to changing circumstances, not least, once in a century pandemic, do you want to talk a little bit about how GA has adapted in the midst of COVID, and how kind of the ongoing journey is unfolding?
Yeah, I would love to. But hearing you talk about Anthony, I'd love to just pick up on a couple of threads as you're describing the importance of these wraparound services and the sort of the career support that this program offers. Student success and career success is not just a matter of kind of skills and academic success, right? There are so many other things that that lifetime career success really requires. For example, a lot of students, again, who have the aptitude to kind of complete skills, high skills training, don't necessarily have access to the resources and the networks that, say, students from more affluent families might have. In fact, it's exactly those challenges that you were describing that are not tied to what's happening in the classroom, but tied to, personal and family responsibilities that end up getting in the way of successful completion of these programs. And so that's why, for anyone who is thinking about serving the underserved with these sorts of programs, if there is one lesson that our collective organizations have learned, it's really that all of these wraparound programs are an absolute necessity to success. It is the career service. It obviously starts with great curriculum, and we're certainly really proud of having really, really strong tech curriculum, but the career services have to be there, the coaching, and which is not just about building job skills confidence, but also just building self-confidence, that has to be there. The relationships and connections to employers has to be there. And then, the thing that I think really makes the career impact bond even more special is that, these are students that are often navigating even more complex challenges. And that's really the spirit in which the sort of social services that we're wrapping around some of these graduates comes into play. But you started off, thank you for indulging me and letting me just share a little bit about that.
It's critical.
Yeah, it really is. So now let me maybe share a little bit about where what this pandemic has really how this pandemic has really impacted GA. I mean, Tracy, we were really known for our on-campus experience. For anyone listening who knows GA and has maybe even taken a course with us, that it's really those experiences, that on-campus experience that a lot of people remember. It's the quality of the teaching and the instruction and the curriculum, and it's often the friendships and professional network that one builds in taking those courses. And so, and while GA certainly offered, even before the pandemic, it offered some flexibility in that we had, fully remote. We did offer fully remote courses. The vast majority of our customers chose to attend our campuses. And so what the pandemic did is it forced us really to flip the switch overnight, so that all of our programs were delivered remotely, virtually, online, around the world. And we were worried, rather we were very focused on ensuring that the same experience, the same support, the same sort of classroom and community building that we created in person would be replicated online. And if you ask our students, as measured, if we endlessly survey our students, and we also track their their satisfaction with our programs and NPS scores, and if you can believe it, those things actually went up when we during COVID, which to us was really just a sign of a couple of things. One, that it is possible, it won't be the same, but it is very possible to have and deliver a high touch, very human-centered experience, whether it's physically in person or online. And that is one thing that's endured and that hasn't changed about the GA experience, even now that we're delivering our experience across multiple modalities, as we like to say, online, on campus, and on the job. And then really the other thing that it has shared is we are thrilled that this gave us an opportunity to refine and build out to the level of excellence our online experience as much as our on-campus experience. And do you want to know why? It's because flexibility, being able to offer multiple modalities, being able to offer, whether it's women or other caregivers or parents or other people who need more flexibility about when and how they choose to skill themselves, that flexibility is allowing us to open up this opportunity to even more people. And so we will forever offer all of those options. For those who want the in-person experience, they can have it. For those who want that remote experience, we'll deliver that as well. And so this period was really just an opportunity for us to get really, really good at offering that same high touch, high quality experience, but doing so everywhere.
You've taken access to a whole new level.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And I think that that's really, really, important, particularly as, one of the things that you and I really share is, providing opportunity to folks in society for whom, maybe they've been overlooked, maybe they haven't, maybe they've been locked out of the labor force recently due to the pandemic, or even prior to that pandemic, because they were in jobs that were, no growth or low growth, or jobs that were being automated and displaced by the digitization and digitalization of everything. And sometimes that's about people who've been locked out, who've been structurally locked out of society, who are from, marginalized, marginalized communities, who have not had access to the same educational opportunities as the rest of society. And so access and affordability are both really, really deeply important. And to me, those are the two things that your partnerships with educational organizations like ours, that's really what these are about.
Yeah, I'm so happy you mentioned that, Lisa, on access and affordability, and just to put some color around some of these statistics. So in the Career Impact Bond program that we're partnering with you at GA, we aim to enroll 1,000 people. And so far, I think we have over 600 people enrolled already, and the demographic statistics are extraordinary. Just to offer some color, 40% of people enrolled are Black, 12% are Latinx, and these numbers are 6 times more in the traditional GA population. I think the traditional GA population is around 6% Black, 6% Latinx. So when you target a population that has been traditionally locked out, people who may have been in the criminal justice system, people who have been on public benefits, people who've participated in the earned income tax credit program, that is what happens. The demographic data speaks to how communities of color have just been so disproportionately affected, not least coming out of the pandemic. So we're just really humbled to see the composition of the student body to date, and really excited to continue to lean in to serve this population. One thing I wanted to mention is kind of which we often get the question, like, if you're offering such student-friendly terms and you're targeting such a different population, who are your investors, and like, how are you making this possible? So we're really lucky to have philanthropically motivated investors, what we call impact investors. These are people who obviously care deeply about their philanthropic work, and they do a lot of philanthropy, but they also see the power of tapping the capital markets in addressing social challenges. So we have raised an investment fund, which is called the UP Fund. It's a $50 million fund, and General Assembly is our first partner, our first investment in the fund, that Career Impact Bond. And that fund has the great support of lots of amazing limited partners, ranging from Blue Meridian Partners, the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, the Pershing Square Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation, and many individual investors investing through the DAF. And that's not even to talk about our grant support partners coming from google.org and Prudential Foundation and others. And we're really excited to see how these early pilots will gain scale so that we can help many, many more people in the economy.
And if you don't mind my maybe sharing a testimonial. You mentioned earlier that some of the individuals who've gone through our program have a criminal record, and for those that have whose lives have been touched and in many cases scarred by an interaction with the criminal justice system, they have a particularly sharp hill to climb. And so I just wanted to read a couple of testimonials from a few students in California, one whose life was touched by a prison stint. So his quote is, "I spent decades in prison and was able to learn about coding as a member of the Last Mile program. After my release, I didn't have a job or credit, and I was starting over, but really wanted to continue what I had learned with the Last Mile. This program helped me to enroll in a software engineering program and continue my journey." And I'll read one more. "I didn't have a lot of money or options and was making $20,000 a year. I have a son and needed to find something that would improve our lives. This program has put me on track for a new career, a new salary with new skills, and the emergency fund helped me during the pandemic to pay bills when I could no longer work." I mean, Tracy, that's the reason we get up
Yes. Why
in
we
the
wake up,
morning.
right? Right.
That's
Right.
really, that's really what it's about. And one of the things that I really just want to commend you and your team for, aside from just having incredible vision, but it is very, very easy for people to talk the talk, but it is much more challenging to walk the walk, as you have. And we just could not be more honored to be doing such life transforming work like this. And it's also proof that it really does take a village. I mean, the number of organizations that we've referred to, from funders to employers to the organizations that help us, stretch and expand these wraparound services. It's a collective effort, which, in my experience, anything worth doing always is.
What is the African proverb, Lisa, right? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And it's exactly this multi-stakeholder partnership that we've developed with you and with others. Yeah, it's hard, but the stories are just so powerful.
They are indeed. Well, would you mind at all maybe sharing a little bit, as we draw to a close, on some work that we've been touching on, which is called Workforce Realigned?
You have a chapter in it. Your fabulous colleague, Tom Ogletree. I love Tom. Our team loves Tom. Our team loves you.
Who doesn't love Tom Ogletree?
Exactly. To JFF Horizons, everyone should love Tom Ogletree if you have not met him. But Lisa and Tom have a chapter, chapter 17, too, of this book that we just published with the Federal Reserve Banks of Atlanta and Philadelphia, called Workforce Realigned. You can come and download the book at workforcerealigned.org. And there's a chapter on this partnership with General Assembly, and we just couldn't be more proud of this partnership.
Well, Tracy, I feel like we have covered so much ground about this. I'm trying to think of other things that folks might want to know about this. So maybe we can close with a big call to action. In your dream state, what is something, if for people who are listening to this and hearing this, who want more of this work to be happening, what would you encourage them to do? Where should they go? If folks want to, just what in your heaven state, how do we grow this village?
We have to have everyone lean in, providers like General Assembly, like Lisa, pick up the phone and call us, pick up the phone and call Maria and her team at JFF. If you are a public sector participant, whether it's at the federal, state, or local level, or a workforce board, and you're curious about these new outcomes-based financing options, pick up the phone and call us. If you're an impact investor or philanthropy and you're curious about how to put investment dollars to work in addition to grant dollars, please call us. But I can't thank you enough, Lisa, for just being an amazing partner on this first pilot of ours. We have grand dreams to grow this program so that more people can benefit beyond the 1,000. And I also want to end by thanking Maria and the team at JFF again for hosting this conversation, and to the Gates Foundation for sponsoring these candid conversations.
It is absolutely a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and may we continue to have big impact on folks' lives. The work continues.
The work continues, absolutely.